All right, welcome everybody to Books and Hoops podcast episode 2. Hope you guys all had a great week and enjoyed episode 1. But we got to get into it. And today's Bible verse of the day before we start is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. Remember that and be strong. So I want to talk about, there was a news report that came out today, Wednesday, January 7th, that Trea Young wants to be traded to the Wizards. We're going to break down the pros and cons of a Trea Young Washington Wizards trade and why I think it's a good idea and why I think it's a bad idea for Trea Young to be traded. And then we're also going to be doing our disappointing teams of the NBA season so far. Talk about some college hoops. So let's get into it. So Trea Young, who has been one of the top point guards in the NBA since he came into the NBA back in what year was he? Drafted back in 2018. I believe it was. I could be wrong, but he's been one of the top guards since he came into the NBA back in I think it was like 2018, 2019. So he's been one of the top guards since coming into the league. And he beat the Knicks in 2020. That Knicks team was I remember sitting in a high school English class and it's like, the Knicks are a good team. And then everyone's like, nope. You're wrong. It is not going to happen. Sorry, I'm typing something. So yeah, but Trea Young has been one of the top guards ever since has entered the NBA. Personally, I'm not a Trea Young fan. I'm actually a Trea Young hater just because I'm a Knicks fan, but it's okay. It's okay. But no, Trea Young going to Washington, I think, is going to be one of the best things in the league because the Wizards are an extremely young roster. They have some veterans in Chris Middleton, who is a former NBA champion with the Milwaukee Bucks. They have CJ McCollum, who was Damian Lillard's wingman for all those years in Portland. And it makes a lot of sense, and Trea Young would become the face of the Washington Wizards franchise, just like he is right now in Washington. But I have some mixed opinions about it. The reason why I think it's such a bad move for the Hawks is you invested so much into your team. You traded for Kristaps Porzingis this offseason. And you have Dyson Daniels. But it really hasn't worked out for the Washington Wizards. For the Atlanta Hawks the way it should have worked out ever since they went to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2021. Or in 2020, excuse me. But Trea Young, obviously the Hawks are open to moving him, but Hawks have now realized that it's clearly not working with the Hawks. And it's not working in Atlanta. It hasn't worked since since that year what most people call it a fluke year. But Trea Young going to but now let's talk about Trea Young going to Washington, D.C. And Trea Young going to Washington, like I just said, he immediately becomes the face of the franchise in Washington for a team that, like I said, they have good vets. They have a lot of extremely good young players, and it's going to take some time. So Trea Young could easily come in there and develop and allow this young Wizards team to develop this year, and then maybe next year or in the year after, they take the next step to get them further into the game. Another reason why Washington is so good for Trea Young is the Wizards would give him the full keys to the city. He would be able to do whatever he wants. He could average the most points, rebounds, whatever, and he would do so well in Washington, and his usage would go so phenomenally high in Washington if he went there. And Washington's like a low pressure market. Like Trea Young's not going to have to answer dumb media questions like he would in New York or in LA or in Boston. So it's definitely what it is. And Washington would also give him whatever it is that he wants. They would give him the bag. They would give him whatever he wanted because he is immediately going to come in and be their franchise player. But the cons of Trea Young does go to Washington is they're in a rebuild. So Trea Young is definitely risking his legacy, and he's going to be risking a lot. But I think the Wizards logically are a good fit for Trea Young. Like I said, they are one of the youngest teams in the NBA, and they are definitely a team that is on the come up in the next couple of years. I said probably within the next 3 years, they officially come out of that rebuild, but only time will tell. But yeah, let me know. Do you guys see Trea Young getting traded? I think it's crazy if Trea Young does get traded, but let me know if potentially Trea Young gets traded. The next one I want to dive into is I want to dive into this new segment I'm doing on a show called Players of the Week and Duds of the Week. My player of the week so far this week, team of the week, I'm going to go with the Phoenix Suns. They beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. They've been playing extremely well. Kudos to the Suns. And then, yeah, but NBA All-Star voting's out. I want to break down who I think should be on the ballot. We've seen most of the Knicks starting five. Like, I believe the entire Knicks starting five is on the ballot, which is actually really insane. But kudos to Knicks fans for doing that, because that is extremely amazing that Knicks fans have been able to get their player posted in time. But yeah, do I think that all the Knicks deserve to make All-Stars? No. No, I do not. But do I think that with the All-Star game format, like the NBA has changed their All-Star format like so many times. Like they couldn't figure out East versus West, guys didn't want to play. Then they did the draft where you would play for like to like a certain amount. I think it was like 140. And now this year they're doing US versus World. So essentially, guys could be guys from the World team, like Victor Wembanyama, won't play for the Western Conference. They will play for the World team. And if there's not enough players for, let's say, the Western Conference, then Adam Silver, who is the commissioner of the NBA, will get to make the decision. And that's where we could see players who maybe are less deserving of making the All-Star team make the All-Star team just to fill the threshold that we need to have in order for the league to reach the All-Star limit. Which I just think the NBA needs to figure it out. The NHL did such a great job last year with the Four Nations tournament, which I didn't watch the Four Nations tournament, but if you are a hockey fan, that was a killer All-Star game, and the NHL should definitely do the Four Nations face-off again, because that was kudo. And then we saw the MLB do a home run derby swing-off to end the All-Star game remain tied. We saw the NFL kind of dive away from their All-Star game, and they're just doing flag football now. So the NBA definitely needs to figure it out and figure out like where it is the NBA wants to be, because the NBA is kind of just like guys don't want to play in the All-Star game. Like they don't play defense. The All-Star game is never really like they score 190, 200 points every All-Star game because nobody plays defense, and it's insane. And this year it's in LA, but yeah, nobody plays defense in the All-Star game, which is just, and that's been a problem for the NBA for years, has that they can't get the NBA All-Star game to be an NBA All-Star game because guys don't want to play in the All-Star game. Like, they don't want to play in the All-Star game, and I don't blame them. Like, there's no incentive to play in the All-Star game. Like, I know in years past, in MLB, winning the All-Star game, if the American League won, the American League representative got home field advantage and vice versa. But in the NBA, I don't think they got that. And it's becoming a problem for the NBA where the NBA needs to go in a direction. I think they thought the NBA Cup would be worth it, but I feel like the NBA Cup is more of like a March Madness playoff feeling vibe, just because like they're playing for an in-season tournament and they're playing for cash and other things. So the NBA needs to figure out the All-Star game, and I think that the best solution for the NBA to fix the All-Star game would be you put the NBA Cup, they're in the NBA Cup semis, quarterfinals, and finals during All-Star Weekend, and they play during All-Star Weekend. That way, guys have more incentive to want to play rather than just be like, hey, I got voted in, but I don't want to play. Like, the NBA Cup could get moved to All-Star Weekend, and I feel like that would give guys and players more incentive to want to play, because now it actually means something, because now you get a chance to actually win an in-season tournament, and it gives you that March Madness vibes, because you win or go home. Not playing, like, round robin, like, make it a March Madness style where you win, you move on. If you lose, your season ends. You get straight to the point. But yeah, I think that is a phenomenal idea. And but yeah, I mean, move the NBA Cup over to the All-Star break, and I think you see kind of the results of it, because the NHL did phenomenal, like I said, with the Four Nations tournament. The MLB seems to have it figured out. It's just the NBA cannot. And I know that some fans might be like, oh, the NBA should do a WNBA versus NBA All-Star game, and that would be so terrible for the WNBA to do. But that could be something that I wouldn't be surprised if I see them do in a couple years, where they have the NBA All-Stars face off against the WNBA All-Stars, even though their seasons take place at two totally different times. But could definitely see that being a possibility as well. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we could sit here all day and come up with solutions for how to make the All-Star game better. We could sit here all day. Maybe you do something like you take fan voting out of it, essentially, because fan voting is usually very biased towards specific players, and we see certain players get snubbed all the time. And so the NBA has got to figure something out. I just don't know if they figured it out. Maybe you move the dunk contest to halftime at the All-Star game. Now that would be a lot of fun. You move the dunk contest to the halftime at the NBA All-Star game. The three-point contest you could also do during halftime. Like, there was so much the NBA could do during All-Star weekend, where I think it'd be phenomenal. I think they tried doing the G League a couple years ago, and I don't think that was very successful. Like, obviously, like, but yeah, I mean, we can sit here all day, we could talk about it, but I think that would be phenomenal to do. Make it kind of like, make the All-Star weekend like NBA March Madness type of feel, and give guys more incentive to want to play the game rather than not. So now let's break down my final segment of the day, and that is my team who's been extremely disappointing in the NBA, and my team has been disappointed in and the surprise team in the NBA, and then we'll also break it down for college hoops as well. My disappointing team, and they've been playing extremely well the past couple of weeks, is the LA Clippers. Like, you have Paul George, I'm not Paul George. Paul George is in Philly. You have Kawhi Leonard, you got John Collins, you traded for Brook Lopez. Like, this Clippers team, you obviously have James Harden as well. This Clippers team was supposed to be what a lot of people were saying, maybe like a top 6, 7 seed in West, and they've been nothing but a top 6 seed. They've been playing better as of late, but they have been nothing short of a top 6 team in the West. Not really sure what the Clippers are, but the Clippers are definitely the most disappointing team so far. And the most surprising team, I would say, is the Detroit Pistons. We knew the Pistons last year, they were the 6th seed, got knocked out by the New York Knicks in the first round, but nobody really expected the Pistons to go from the 6th seed to the 1 seed. So shout out to the Detroit Pistons and J.D. Bickerstaff, and Cade Cunningham's a baller. So phenomenal. But yeah, Pistons have been a surprise team. Now in college, it's a little different, because if you look at the major conferences, Big Ten, SEC, ACC, like those major, but Big 12, like you understand like where it comes from. But I would say the surprise team so far in the college basketball, one has been Michigan, because they have been just blowing teams out of the water. But also, Miami of Ohio has been kind of a team that a lot of people have been talking about. So shout out to Miami of Ohio for being the surprise team. I mean, the disappointing team in college basketball this year has got to be Baylor, just because their identity, like they're a Baylor Bears, and they've been so disappointing. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed episode 2, make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you're on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And I'll see you guys for episode 3 when we're gonna have a special guest on. Peace.